Facebook, what's up? Here we go. It's Thursday morning, Criminal Justice Cafe. We got Dr. Rick Speck with us, straight out of Safe and Just, Michigan. You know how he does. He's always keeping us informed with what's going on. Rick, we appreciate you. And then we have our guest today, Cozine Welch from Washtenaw County, with a brighter way. Sorry, Rick confused me a little bit about that earlier. He was attempting to describe who we were interviewing and which group he was a part of and all this. So I apologize about that, Cozine. I normally don't do that. Usually I'll write the name down, of the group of who we're interviewing, but today I didn't do it. So just following Rick's lead.
That's what I just told Rick to do. You mean to tell me I just told Rick to do that and you didn't?
A good
I got it wrote down. It's right there.
Okay.
Right there.
Rick, you are amazing, brother. You are so amazing. You know that?
I got to lead by example. It's right there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Good stuff. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in and checking us out. We really appreciate it. We love the questions. We love it when everyone can chime in, especially with the topics that we discuss and all things revolving around criminal justice reform. The cool thing about this whole CJ reform conversation is there's so many different facets to this. Like you got like me and Cozine, for instance, we're more on the reentry side of things, right? And then you got Rich and Troy do the policy stuff. I think Asia, and the Bail Project, and Aaron and Mario doing the juvenile lifer work there, the services with them. And so it's unique seeing all of us come together, how we can all be interdependent upon one another. You know what I mean? It's like the things that one is good at and really has their efforts in, the others aren't, but they have their sweet spot what they're in. So that's the unique thing. So I really appreciate the work you do. Cozine, why don't you just take a minute or so and introduce yourself? Tell us about you and the group you're part of.
So my name is Cozine Welch. I am the new executive director of A Brighter Way. We are a nonprofit in Washtenaw County, primarily based in mentoring services provided to our mentees who are formerly incarcerated from prisons and jails in Washtenaw County. So we provide mentoring, one-on-one and group, as well as wraparound services to help folks get themselves not just started, but to find their own individual path. It's very important that folks who come home are not forced to some existence that is simply just made getting by without going back. Right? Recidivism is not the end game. A better life is the end game, a healthier life, healthier mental health. That's the end game. Yeah. And so that's what we kind of focus on, helping folks get that initial start. We try to reach out to folks before they come home as soon as we can to develop a relationship, establish a mentor, establish a group and a parent, establish an action plan, and kind of help folks go along as they come home. With the idea, again, the most important idea is that folks are allowed to be real free individuals, right? And by that means they have their own capacities to seek and attain what they want for themselves individually. And more importantly, they are able to find out what that is. A lot of times we don't have the opportunity to find out what is the thing that we are really moved by. For some folks, it might be honestly, picking up, getting money out of vending machines at coin laundries, right? But if you find something that is for you, it's like we always make this parallel to the collegiate life. You go to college with a major, but you end up finding out what you really want to do, right? You go through this kind of rite of passage, which allows you the time and space to figure out what it is you want to do with your life. And so coming home, there should be that same space. You should have that same approach. And so a lot of that is found by mentoring. That's how we kind of provide that to folks, is by one-on-one mentoring to help folks figure out what it is right now, what they want to do in the future, and to feel really secure in being able to walk that process with someone who's walked it before, who's familiar with it, right? And who they can see by lead and example has found their way through what they're going through right now.
That's good. I love it. Good stuff. Thanks for coming on and sharing that with us. Rick, why don't you do intro for us?
Rick Speck, Safe and Just, Michigan, community engagement specialist, co-founder of Luck Inc., which was a direct service provider to men and women returning to from prison, specifically to the city of Detroit. We mentored just over 300 folks in total on one of our contracts. And that's what we tracked, let alone what we just did, meeting people in life. And sometimes I found the hard thing is the folks that had maxed out and there technically was no money for services for them. but yeah, we were always there. It wasn't about, what we could build, but, how we could build. So yeah, happy to be here. Have this amazing guest on today from a brighter way, Nate, brighter way.
Thanks, Rick.
But no, I mean, you touched on something really important, I think, in your intro, Cozine, when you talked about the individual plan, right? Like everybody comes home with a different path, right? Like for me, it was, wanting to create Luck Inc., giving men and women, skills and tools that I had learned and helped change, right? Nate, when you came home, right, you had a mission and vision, and there was people there that helped you along the way, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the part, that for me was a big part of what I feel was, my success was having other men and women around me to help me. So can you give us like an example what a typical intake would look like in relation to your clients? Like what are the things you try to make sure are serviced with them?
So obviously you have your initial, what do you call it? I'm trying to think the correct turn of phrase. I'll just say necessary documents, right? The stuff you need, because oftentimes, as an example we had in the last couple of months, folks come home and MDOC has lost their birth certificate or in some other way has misplaced a vital document that they need to get their lives started, that they need to open up a bank account, to apply for a job, to get any services going. And so that is the one thing you want to do at first is make sure, obviously, someone has some place to stay. But you want to make sure that there's a plan and process for them to get those vital documents and get the supports they need. A lot of times we come home, it's wonderful. We got this new partnership we're starting with Wise Mind Psychological Services, because a lot of times when you come home, you get Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Health and Human Services assistance, and that gives you insurance. Now, this insurance is pretty good, but you got to get it. And you can immediately get mental health when you have that insurance, right? So you can start getting the services you need to start. And so that is kind of what the idea is. We get you get your documents first. From that, you find employment. We hope to have you housing before then. Obviously, that is obviously the first place. There's no use in coming home if there's nowhere to stay. All right, that's a necessity. But after that, obviously, you get to find some of their documents and what other interests do they have? Does someone want to enroll? Does someone want to take an apprenticeship training? Does someone interested in being an electrician? That's when you kind of get out to the community and find out how you now can get this person assistance. And when I say assistance, I really mean just that, just assistance, just a slide in. You want to give someone the opportunities that they should have had, and had they maybe had, they wouldn't have found themselves where they are now, right? It's all about kind of the idea that things are missing when there's an imbalance. So if someone wants to get into a field of study, for example, then you got to put a little extra work in to make sure they have the information and resources necessary to find out if that field of study is really for them and how to attain that. So it's about developing the immediate plan. What do you need right now? And what's going to happen 6 weeks out? 12.
So you do short-term plans, then you have like a long-term plan with them. Definitely. In relation to goals and milestones, so to speak.
Exactly. And our intake allows the mentee to write down things they are interested in. Of course, we take data we need. What have you done before? What's your education level? All these types of things. But more importantly, we ask, where are you at today in terms of what you want? What are your interests? We want to find someone that is in the field that you're interested in to give you some more information about that to see if that's something you want to pursue. You want to build a life, a life that is like a career, right? Is the thing you're investing in for not just now, but for the future, and giving yourself the opportunity to look into new opportunities that you may not have thought possible for you before, or had the privilege and leeway to really look into.
Yeah, I think it's great when you can place somebody in a field of interest that they already have. I always tell folks that's a paid internship. That's what that is, right? You can look at, it's a smaller amount. You're just getting in the door, but this is what you want to do, right? Like, I don't know, say printing. So somebody wanted to do printing or t-shirts or what, right? Like, but don't know a lot about it. I would go get a job there. Where else are you going to learn it inside out from the ground up? Start at the bottom. Learn all you can, be that sponge, right? So yeah, I think it's important if we can connect in that way too. But I think the part that people forget is we want to come home and we want to thrive and we want all the things that everybody else has, right? We want a home, we want a reliable vehicle. We want to be able to take care of our children, all these things. Well, how do we do that, right? I mean, and so having folks there to walk through, I got to tell you that's one of the greatest things. In relation to your coaches, do you have opportunities where, say, folks are watching today and they wanted to volunteer or maybe even coach? How does that work?
So to be a mentor, you have to go through a training. So we have a training module. We have to hold the training. We're right now trying to work out how to do that through, Zoom meetings and what have you, thanks to COVID, develop a kind of new program model for that. So we can start trainings again. But so it'll be an in-person training. A trainer facilitator will lead the training, will go on for 7 hours or more, depending upon what the depth of degree, but always at least 7. And that's how someone starts off as a mentor. Then you have assignments where, based upon let's say, for example, let's say the manager, or in this case, maybe I know them personally, the executive director is helping to pair, a mentee with a mentor based on that mentee's experience and that mentor's experience and how well they get along together. Like, one of the things we're kind of excited about right now is we're reassessing our approach to establishing mentors and mentees together, because we realize that a mentor is not going to be a one shot, right? So in our lives, all of us can recollect, we've had different mentors. It's simultaneously, I right now can count off the top of my head, I got 5 mentors, right? There's not one person who's taking care of everything, right? But I do recognize there's one person who I consider my mentor who is helping me through my own return. I mean, I'll be honest, let's not forget, like, I've been home 2.5 years off of a 20-year sentence. So I am returning as well. Though I may be in a more advanced stage than folks who are freshly coming in, I am still close enough to recognize. And that's kind of one of the things that's unique about our org, is I'm close enough to both recognize what's happening with folks come home, and in the organizational sense, I am present and aware of what needs to be done to make sure supports stay and more supports are added. Forgive me if I go off on tangents sometime.
No, they say you can't, for how does that quote go? Nate, you may help me. About you can't lead someone from a place you haven't been. Is that it?
You can't take someone to a place you've never been. Right? You can't give away something you don't have yourself, right?
Okay. See. So I knew I'd get a little help out of you today, somewhere down the line.
And so, Cozine, I know we talked about the employment piece, getting people engaged with employment mentoring. Let's say you have an individual who comes to you and their next step is not employment, but education. Is there a process set in place where they say, hey, I'm able to stay with a family member or a friend, so rent and all that stuff really isn't an issue. I'm able to stay with family. They're letting me use one of their vehicles, or they may already have one. And they say, so getting a job really is not a pressing thing, and I'm willing to wait this thing out for a few years to kind of invest into myself. And they want to go back to school or get an education in a trade or something. What's the process if an individual comes from that standpoint? How do you process that with them?
I mean, honestly, it's just the way any individual would process that. Only now you have assistance in doing that. So it becomes, okay, well, what do we need to make that happen? Where do you want to enroll? Are you looking for a community college? Are you looking for a 2-year, 4-year, right? And we look and reach out to our volunteer base, our mentor base, our community partners, and figure out, okay, you want to go to EMU? EMU's right here, and they got one of the best social work programs. We look and find out what's the best step for you, and then we'll find someone who can help us, right? So that would be, whether that be through our volunteer base or our mentor base, because we will have mentors, but if need be, volunteers are there. Volunteers they're there to volunteer. If you have a volunteer who is, in the administration department at Eastern Michigan University, why would that person not want to talk to our mentee and vice versa, right? And ironically enough, that sometimes serves both purposes, because sometimes that initiation can cause someone who was a volunteer to think about mentoring now, and to now help further people make their way into it. You see, so it's that type of mindset. So you do it just like you would you solve any other problem. You look and see what your problem is, what things you need to maintain this goal, what the resources are available around you. You throw some fishing lines out to find out. You hit up some community partners that do this and do that, and you make it happen.
Cool. Good. So the point is, whatever an individual, if they come to Brighter Way, whatever they need in order to begin the next chapter of life, so to speak, you guys can help with from school, whatever.
That's what our goal is. Our goal is always to, and that's one thing I think that's been the hardest about kind of going through COVID right now, is that it has slowed so much up. Right? Yeah. And it has stretched resources like really thin, like, you know, like a Brighter Way, we were on turn to have a great financial turnout before COVID hit. We had a matching donor campaign. We had a lot of plans to do things, and then COVID hit. And it was like, wait, maybe you should sit down for a minute because you're going to be working from home.
Right.
Well,
now that you mentioned that, is there a way that folks can support and give to a Brighter Way?
Oh yeah, sure. There's many ways. They can like us I encourage them to like us on Facebook, to check us out on Instagram, to go to our website. It'll be in the chat link. Visit us there. You'll find links to all of everything that's going on with us. Get on our email newsletter. We'll give you updated information on what's happening. We'll keep you in the loop. The opportunities to volunteer at our website, opportunities to donate, opportunities to sign up if you want to become a mentor. Like we will be getting normal operations up and running, and we are starting right now. COVID, you know, it puts people behind. It makes you do a side step. We had the shuffle step, right? And especially you got to think about, we have this unique, you know, I don't know how unique, you know, what the numbers are, but for us, it really is the fact that I came on as the executive director right before COVID started. Right. So it was like I came on, we had a great event in February, on February 25th. And, you know, 1 week later, I'm like, okay, I'm getting this job. And then,
boom.
Yeah. It's like, hey, have you ever seen a pandemic? I'm like, no, what do they look like? This.
Hey, I can relate. You know, I started for Safe and Just on March 16th.
Yeah, I would say you guys are both the same.
So, yeah, my wife and I, we were coming home from a vacation in Florida on Marco Island, so we narrowly beat the travel thing, right? We got out of there. We get home, and then my wife and I are both starting jobs on March 16th, same day, and it's a pandemic. And, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was panicked. Like, I was like, did I really just walk away from a great job with the ACLU to an even better job, right? And now I have no job? Like, it was scary, right? I would have been calling you up for a mentor to find the job. I need some help.
I need a mentor, baby.
Right? Like, I need somebody to help me. I got to pay these bills, right? Like, so the one thing, though, that you didn't mention in your skills, right? Or a couple of things you didn't mention, Cozine. Number one, you're a poet. You do spoken word, right? You're an actor. I mean, this guy's phenomenal, right? And I seen a video recently of you promoting voting. So I'd like you to just, you know, I mean, we have all these elections coming up, right? Like, this is the year we got presidential, we got all these prosecution, all these elections, right? Yeah. And then I'm just scrolling through, and up pops this video, and the first smiley face I see is this dude, and he's talking about voting. And I'm like, wow, this is dope, right? Like, this is a great video. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, and then maybe we could talk a little bit about how voting is, and we'll probably close out on
that. So that great video was actually put together by the Voting Access for All Coalition, which I asked myself and one of our mentees to be a part of it. It was, I mean, it's one of those ideas where you're like, well, yeah, of course I would love to do that. That makes all the sense in the world. And then you see the execution, you're like, oh, that nice. You know, it's because it centers around getting us access, formerly incarcerated folks access, realizing how easy it is for us to get the vote out, but also, you know, realizing that we are an important population regardless of where we are. Even recognize that while inside, you have power to make your one vote into 7, 10, however many folks you know out there. We understand like this reality that when folks are out here, you're trying so hard to maintain your standard of living that there's just so many things that you find some things you don't have the time span, the bandwidth to really pay attention to like you would. One great thing about being inside is that though we have this horrible condition we're under, we can find that horrible condition time to assist our family members and find out what's going on with political issues. You can make your vote into 10. You can, like this is how we all collect
power.
Right, we build power. And so it's, what I loved about the video was that it just didn't just let you know like, hey, here's how to vote. It gave you this idea of what voting looks like when you're inside and outside, right? Collectively, we can merge those inside and outside can reach and say, okay, here's how we make real change. Here's how we solidify our movement. And then it was just, great people on there sharing passionate pleas to get folks to understand why it's important to vote. It really came together. Thanks to Roddy Wares. Shout out to Roddy Wares.
I think a lot of people don't know here in Michigan, right, that they can vote, right? I think that also for folks that are in the county jail that are pre-trial and haven't been sentenced, right, they're able to vote, right? Yeah. Because what happens if we didn't let them vote and they are found not guilty and things are worked, and then what? So I think it's great, right, in that sense, because again, folks don't understand how powerful that vote is, right? Like you said, I mean, I remember voting for the first time. Unfortunately, I was 43 years old, right? I had just come home from a 15-year prison sentence. And I had never thought, number one, that my vote mattered or counted. And like you said, I really didn't have the time in the day, what I was doing in the streets, to be like, oh, I'm just going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to quit hustling for a minute. I'm going to go vote.
Right.
Those two didn't really equate, right? Like you were just on the grind, you were on the grind. Nothing else got in the way, nothing else was important. So I think it's great that folks know that we can vote, that it is important, right? And how powerful it is, because the reality is there's who we put in place, the decisions they make on our behalf, because they're there to work for us, right? It's not just going to affect us, but it's generational. It could affect our children, children's children. And so voting is something that people literally died for, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it's the difficulty that we face in all like having to, cover our own bases in our daily lives and keep things on, like I was referring to earlier. Like that is a real problem, a real difficulty, but it's not insurmountable, right? Like I'm thinking about my own friend group, right? Like I realized like we got a friend who we trust their political leaning, and they are the most politicized of us all, but they have the same views and the same alignments as all of us do. And they're kind of our go-to person. Like when we're like, okay, dang, voting's coming up, like, what's up with this and that and that? And we have conversations and we can make informed decisions. Like we make it a community collective thing. That way, one person in our group who just does this because they have a real passion for it, it allows all of us to now be informed. So we don't have to, like there's inventive ways to find out how to be informed. And so you can get your vote out. It doesn't have to be this seemingly just ridiculously difficult task. Like it's not that hard. And we can find ways to make sure that we collectively are doing what it takes to make sure it stays a not so difficult thing to do, right? Like it's possible, bro. We just have to put forth a little bit, like you do anything.
A little effort.
Just a little bit. It evens out, you know what I'm saying? Evens out. Collect a little bit of collective effort. You put this much, you stack it all up. It's a lot.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things, since they've MDOC and Secretary of State got on the same page, with the IDs. It's a very simple thing it appeared to be, but it took years and years and years to accomplish. So now that it is, you get registered to vote before you even leave. So it's actually a done deal.
Yeah.
Majority of people I know, even when I first came home, I thought that because I had a felony and had just come home from prison that I couldn't vote until someone told me that. Exactly. So, think about how many individuals who come home who just assume, I can't vote. Yeah. So now this is going to help turn the tide on that. Where individuals
take that myth away,
I think it's going to be imperative on our ends, all of us throughout the state, where we are diligent at letting people know as soon as they come home. Because sometimes things could happen, they could get registered to vote, but it doesn't even register, right? So you know how some people say, I hear you, but I ain't feeling you, right? So you can leave the penitentiary They could tell you, well, okay, I heard them, but I wasn't feeling them at the time. But it's our responsibility to make sure that we are educating those when they come home, and not just a one-time thing, but it has to be a repetitious, and the importance of it as well, too, right?
Well, the great thing about Proposal 3, when that passed here, part of that was to expand the absentee ballot.
Right.
And so what I understand, and I'm sure you as service providers understand, is, to the average person, it is pretty easy to get in your car and go and vote and do all these things, right? But for the person that doesn't have the car, that hasn't been, out in the world that long, taking and bus transfers and then going to a location and lines and all these things, and it's something you never did. And I'm only speaking from how it felt to me at 43, right? And I was fortunate that my precinct wasn't far, but I had to ride a bike there because I didn't have a car, right? I rode my brother's mountain bike, and I remember going to vote, and I handed this person my phone, and I wanted him to take a picture with me holding it, right? Like but that was a good experience. There's other times where there aren't good experiences, right? And I know from helping and volunteering on candidate campaigns and being at polling stations what some of that looks like and how that could deter folks, right? So the great thing about the absentee ballot and our community, our population, right, is now they can vote and they don't have to worry about buses. They don't have to worry about taking time off of work, which they can't afford to do because they just got the job, right? And that dude Cozine from Brighter Way told me, you better not screw this job up. I better show up. I better be 10 minutes early, right? I can't, right? And
early is on time.
That's right. And it's like, this eliminates that, right? This allows our community to vote unfettered for a team, right? To remove some of these barriers. And so I think that's huge too. Folks need to understand.
Definitely.
Now is the time. We are blessed here in Michigan to have this opportunity, this ballot to pass by the people, for the people, right? It was a ballot initiative, and let's just take advantage of that, right? Like, let's turn out, and if it ain't at the polls, in the sense that we show up, let's turn out those absentee ballots. Let's make this thing pop this year, right? Like, let's get our community involved.
I dig it. That's good. Well, it looks like we've got our time in here. So this was a great conversation. Yeah. Went quick too. Cozine, appreciate you coming on.
Talk about my first time voting, but next time.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, we'd love to have you back for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we'll have you come back on here in the future. Give us an update on how things are going and whatever we could do to help champion what you're doing down there in Washtenaw County, the Ann Arbor area. Please let us know, man. I think it's a great network, all of us working together at being a benefit blessing to one another. So appreciate you guys. Rick, as always, thanks for co-hosting and being on here. Any last words you guys want to say before we tune out?
I do. And it's not related to voting, but it's related to what I'm seeing on my screen right now. And Rick and I was fortunate enough to be filming Rick for our Living on an LOP project that we're in conjunction with our Brightways PCAP. And our state project, yeah.
Rick was well acquainted with LOP.
Right, so I didn't know folks going through COVID, right? There's all this comparison about being in COVID is like being in prison, right? And there's positive and negative reactions and applications to that, right? But the reality is that those of us who've been inside develop a type of wisdom in dealing with being forced to not have freedom of movement, right? And we got through it. Not only did we get through it, but you see folks like Rick, you see folks like you, we survive and then thrive. We got something from it, right? There's a wisdom you have for folks who are incarcerated to have because you have to survive, and that creates a type of hyper-intelligence. And so the idea is to show how that can be applied to folks right now who have no clue what the hell's going on. And like, this is how I got through it. I made it through 20. I made it through 30. This is COVID. This is 12 months. You good. Just do this. That kind of idea, like, I know you're tripping right now. Don't worry about it. Here's how, right? That kind of approach. I'll kind of ramble again. My bad.
No.
Yeah. So it's good. Yeah. Rick?
No, I was gonna say it was a really great experience. So we filmed over the weekend, and it was really cool. The camaraderie, coming together. And the lessons learned, right? Like, I think it's just a great way to take the negative and turn it into a positive, right? And be able to share some of our experience from the inside with folks on the outside. And you know, there are learnings, right? And so, yeah, I think.
But before I went over that tangent, because you
just want people to ask to participate. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just like seeing us here doing the work, having gone through it, assisting each other, letting folks who have not gone through it understand what it's like, and being really fundamental in making sure that folks get the assistance they need, that they get a chance to live the lives they deserve. And I just, like, we were sitting in the garage and all of us were formerly incarcerated and we're making moves and helping those like us, so that the things that we went through would be a little less difficult for them. Like I was talking about Rick, like the stuff Rick went through made it less difficult for me. It set a platform, people willing to listen to me because Rick showed them they should, right? That kind of generational step. Every time a new group comes out, we help the other one and make it a little bit easier, give them a little more resources, right? I just love that. I love it. I love it, bro.
Appreciate it. So good, man.
So they can go on YouTube and check that out, right? Living on LOP on YouTube?
I will, yeah. Kate just posted the link up too.
Yep.
Okay, sweet.
Check us out on Facebook, IG. You'll find posts and links to everything. Check out our website. You'll find posts and links to everything. Join us.
Awesome.
Good stuff. All right, Facebook. Appreciate you, Kate. Thanks for helping out with the comments. We appreciate what you do every time we get on here. So thank you. So thanks, Cozine, for coming on. We appreciate you, man. We champion what you're doing. And never hesitate to reach out and connect, okay? We'll do the same too. All right, Rick, appreciate you, buddy. Facebook world, till next week. We'll see you then. Peace.